All right, thank you. Yeah, so I was a PhD student in Kod Lab from 2010 to 2017. I also founded Ghost Robotics with Gavin, kind of during my part in the lab and continuing to now. So I thought I'd use my time mostly to give an idea of what Kod Lab was like in pictures, because there are people from all sorts of years here. So one of the unique things that I saw when I started there was the mentorship aspect of the lab. So right when I started, I was actually very fortunate to be, kind of taken under the wing of Aaron and Goran, who were students then, and I actually had the great fortune of getting a paper out in my very first year. It just is an example of the culture in the lab of mentorship that I really think was very significant and has continued to be very significant and is also very unique. So I was very glad to have access to that. We also did a lot of outreach. You can see Rex and also collaboration. So here's a ModLab robot on top of Rex and a toy helicopter as well. After that, I started kind of I earned the freedom, I would say, from Dan to kind of explore a lot in terms of mechatronics experiments that Dan thought was very unwise, but he let me embark on nonetheless. All sorts of the motor controller actuators. I built this robot called the Jerboa, which to date has still not managed to escape the lab yet, but it's in good hands and it's continuing to make progress. It was a creation that Dan let me create and ended up producing a few good papers for me, despite being kind of a very difficult platform to control. Then I met this character, Gavin, who all you've heard from, and here his wheels that he thought were better than legs at the time, and then
HD video.
I mean, sorry, the
High speed
video.
Is it recording? Yeah, I guess so. Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's stop that. But here's so we went on to create what were truly a family of robots. We built so many robots at that time, all to Dan's chagrin. He just wanted us to work on the robots that existed, but we would build one robot after another. None of them worked well, but it was a great period of education and growth for myself and Gavin as well. So I think that's Minotaur taking its very first bouncy steps, and I mean, you could really say that that led to the so many papers being published with Minotaur after that, both in Kod Lab and elsewhere, as well as the formation of Ghost Robotics from those early beginnings. Oh my God. Yeah, so lots of videos that I didn't forget to take the sound off of. So this paper actually probably is going to end up being my highest cited paper, and since we've kind of stopped writing papers since then, sorry Dan. But I think it's a sign that we were able to make some impact. Most of these citations were people who have used the robot for their own research to further their own research, which I think has been quite humbling to me. Then we also went through a period of working on a lot of things after that to kind of build on that work. So the question mark here is kind of corresponds to like the annotations you see in chess where question marks denote questionable moves. So there were a lot of questionable moves we made. The first was seeing if we wanted to make educational robots, and yeah, basically if you know anything about these kinds of brushless motors and actuators, it is very difficult to make them very cheap to the extent that would be required for educational robots, and trying to make robots with off-the-shelf parts was quite a disaster, and so we sunk quite a bit of time into that, again to Dan's chagrin. Then we went through a phase where we thought we could build bigger robots, but our big success being direct drive robots, we thought we could make big direct drive robots. So, so there was a phase where we thought we would capitalize on the direct drive revolution in washing machines. So the thing you're seeing on the right is a washing machine motor, which we thought we would make a robot with. So there were probably, I will have to say, the revolution in washing machines was probably more impactful than the revolution in legged robots. We were not able to make these robots do anything useful, so you can see a few videos of honestly some of the worst robots that we've ever built. Definitely not making any progress towards going out the lab. So these are all to show kind of like all the freedom that Dan gave us to really grow while we were within the lab. And Dan's impact on me has transgressed sort of academic. I'm not going to say anything about my research here, which obviously was very fundamental. I grew a lot from it, but also personal. So Dan has always been there for us as a mentor, and I think that's been very much appreciated. So all of those goof ups, despite all of those goof ups, we have been working at Ghost Robotics, and I think doing really good work, carrying on these fundamental ideas that Dan has passed on to us, along with infusion of all sorts of ideas that I've gotten from elsewhere. And despite all of that, the picture that I think I have in my slide in my presentations the most often to date are still these ideas about templates and anchors and simple models and hierarchical control structures that, despite all of the tools that I've learned, and I've learned a lot, these are the ideas that have really subsisted and stood the test of time for me. So thank you, Dan. So along with myself, all of these people work at Ghost now. Many of them are Dan students, and Martin Bueller was an advisor for us until very recently when his workload got too high. So yeah, we're really looking forward to kind of carrying the torch collectively and continuing to build on your ideas. So thank you, Dan.